Awesome. So hello, everybody. Um, Welcome to the Dementia and Down Syndrome family slash caregiver training. This is part 1 of 3. Again, my name is Drew Flynn. This is my capstone project. Oops. And what the capstone project entails is I'm here at Down Syndrome, Indiana until about mid-April. And what my goal is while I'm here is just to create a kind of development program for people who care for individuals with Down syndrome and dementia. Obviously, this is a pressing issue that's come to light now that Down syndrome individuals are starting to live longer. So what this topic will kind of share is it's separated into 3 series. The first one being signs and symptoms, and what the symptoms, what this series or this specific topic will go over. I just want to give like a intro to dementia, what it looks like, what the brain kind of does, and then I will explain the connection of Down syndrome and dementia. And then we'll go into the signs and symptoms of what it looks like. And then from there, I'll also explain ways to assess an individual to see if they have dementia, and then ways to take steps from there. And then at the end, we'll discuss just different preliminary efforts that can lower the risk for dementia as well. So my objectives throughout this capstone project is I want to be able to increase confidence and ability in caring for someone with Down syndrome and dementia. I also want to be able to increase the awareness of caregiver burnout, people with that take care of people with dementia. It wears on you, and then you also now have the underlying effect that person also has a intellectual disability. So that just adds a ton more stress. What that also does is what I also want to do is also increase the ability to find resources and care, more so in the late stages of dementia as well. What the goal of this project is, just I kind of want to just be like a vessel of resources and information. That way I'm able to get information out there of just a topic that is kind of brand new to this specific community. I will take time to say now that if you have not filled out the survey that I emailed you after this talk, please fill that out. It will definitely help me out in the long run. So a little background about me. I have an older brother with Down syndrome. We are 10 months apart in age. That picture right there, that's him. That is Brody. I joke with him sometimes because that is a picture of me on my wedding day, and that was the first time he's ever gelled his hair up, and it's the best hair day he's ever had, and I always try to get him to gel his hair up, but he never listens to me. But yeah, so and then another part about me is that I used to work for a non-medical home care company, where I was first exposed to people with dementia. And through this company, I was able to get certified in something called the Positive Approach to Care. And what this is, it's an organization that was made by an occupational therapist who is using all the skills that she's learned and research that she's learned and teaching healthcare services to be able to treat people with dementia and how to engage with them. So that training is just specific for people with dementia, but I'm able to use that training and kind of relate it to people with dementia and Down syndrome. So the information from that I'll be sharing tonight kind of stems from that training. It also stems from the National Down Syndrome Society. They created a guidebook for caregivers that are on the topic of Alzheimer's disease and Down syndrome. And then I've also, throughout the past year, I've done research through a literature review. This was also a school project, so I've had to do the long paper writing as well. So let's get into it. So first, what I'm going to do here is just kind of explain the dementia part. I'll go into specifics on what the brain is doing, and kind of debunk some confusion, and just again explain in depth on how the brain is changing. So first, the um, dementia is both a chemical and physical change to the brain. And what I kind of mean by this is that, oops, what is going on? Sorry. Go back. Hold on. There we go. Sorry about that. Clicking things I shouldn't be clicking, I guess. So dementia is both a chemical and physical change to the brain. And what I mean by this is that you can see from the picture, there's a normal brain, and then there's a person with dementia's brain. And the brain is shrinking, and there's less brain cells for the brain to interact and function normally. So that's the physical part of it. The chemical part of it is that the neurons in the brain are also starting to not work as well, so that they're not firing off like normal. So that means sometimes somebody can be able to do something that they did one day, and then the next day they can't. And that all depends on whether that neuron's going to be firing or not. And that kind of goes into that all cases of dementia are going to be different due to that, chemical change. Another thing that I want to address is, a lot of people think dementia, they think, oh, it's Alzheimer's, oh, it's memory loss. This is a saying from the positive approach to care training that I wanted to emphasize, is dementia does not equal Alzheimer's disease, and it does not equal memory loss. Again, the brain it's failing, and that different parts of the body are going to be shutting down, and different parts of the brain are going to be preserved as well. So it's how that person is going to kind of react, which again leads into why it's every case of dementia is different. Another thing that I took from the positive approach to care is these 4 truths about dementia. It's at least 2 parts of the brain are dying. It is chronic and can't be fixed. It is progressive and it will get worse, and it is terminal. And I know that's probably tough to hear, and it's obviously dementia is a hard thing, but that's why I'm so passionate and want to be able to work with people like this, because even though if you get that diagnosis of dementia, that person is still a person. It's still a human being, and there are ways to engage in that person and help that person to kind of help them to that finish line. So this is kind of just a nice little image that kind of explains dementia better. Dementia is this umbrella term that describes a collection of symptoms that are caused by a disorder in the brain. So you have many different types of dementia. You have Alzheimer's disease, vascular dementias, Lewy body dementia, and frontotemporal dementias, as well as other dementias that can be caused by Parkinson's disease, Huntington disease, head trauma, HIVs, and alcohol-related dementias as well. I will say, majority of cases with people with dementia, it's again, you see right there, 40 to 70% of all cases are Alzheimer's disease. And through the research that I've also done, most of the dementia through people with Down syndrome is Alzheimer's, and I will kind of get into that later on why that is the case. So what I wanted to explain here is just kind of 5 categories on how a person loses and preserves things in the brain. This is from the positive approach to care training. And what they kind of did here is they were showing images of the brain that kind of was shrinking, and then part of images of the brain that were kind of still there. And what they were able to do through research was able to pinpoint areas of the brain where these specific things are usually active. And that's why through many years of research, we've been able to kind of pinpoint what part of the brain does this, what part of the brain does that. And so I'll just go through each one and kind of explain what is kind of going on. I'll start with vision. What a person with dementia loses with vision is their peripheral vision, so their edge of vision. They lose their depth perception, their object recognition, and they are slower to process and slower to scan and shift focus. A big takeaway that I took out of the training is that if you were like go like this with your eyes and have these little binoculars, that's basically what a person with dementia is seeing, because they lose all of that um, outside vision, and what is preserved is just that middle field. And they also still will like curiously look around, that is also preserved as well. But I just want to keep note of that, because that's going to be a big indicator on how you interact with somebody with dementia. Just because if you're standing over there and they can only see this, but they hear something, they can get startled by something. Something as simple as that. For memory loss, they lose their immediate recall, their attention to selected information, their memory of recent events and relationships. And then what is preserved is long ago memories, emotional memories, emotional memories and motor memories. And one thing that's kind of explained there, that one from the training that I took away, is that your brain kind of splits in two, one part logical and one part emotional. And what they're seeing with dementia is that you kind of lose that logical part of the brain first before you lose that emotional. And so that's just another thing to keep in mind on how to interact with somebody with dementia. So for understanding, they can't interpret words, they miss some words, and they get off target easily. They still are able to understand facial expressions. They'll hear tone of voice, and sometimes they'll pick up on some nonverbal communications as well. With sensory changes, there's a lot of sensory changes, but one of the main one is just awareness of body and position and ability to locate and express pain. That's a big one, due to just my personal experience working with people with dementia. You can kind of tell when they have an off day, but then you kind of have to play detective on, all right, what's really going on? Are they not feeling well? Is something wrong? Are they anxious about something? And they lose that ability to be like, oh, my stomach hurts, or I have to use the bathroom, and sensory stuff like that. What they do kind of preserve are just any areas can be sensitive. I know with working with people with dementia, water temperature is a big one. They can be either really sensitive to hot or cold water. And then they have a need for sensation, can become extreme. Another person I worked with, he always had to be folding things. So as he's at the dinner table, he'd almost get distracted. He wouldn't even eat his dinner. He would just sit there and just fold his napkin all night, instead of just eating. And then moving on to language, what they lose is that they can't find the right words. They do word salad, and by that, that's more of just they're saying a bunch of words that have no correlation at all. So they're talking, they're saying things, but it's not jumbled. It's clear words, but it's just no idea what they're saying. And then they obviously have the vague language, where they're thinking of something. They know they know what it is in their head. They just can't get it out and describe it, as well. And then again, they just can't make needs known. That kind of goes back to the ability to locate and express pain as well. And again, just keep in mind, like, all these things are happening to a person with dementia, but some of them can be different, and some of them can be there and some of them cannot. So that's why it's just the variables of dementia is very high. And then the one things that they preserve is singing, automatic speech, and of course swear words. And that kind of goes back to the swear words and the singing. All, like, you think like, oh, that person with dementia can't talk, but you put on a song from their childhood and they're able to sing right along. And I've seen it happen before, and it's quite extraordinary. And then of course the swear words, it's just that those words get stored in a different part of your brain because they obviously are attached to an emotion, as well. And so what I want for you all to kind of understand from this kind of table here is just to keep in mind, when you're engaging with a person with dementia, when we understand how they feel, it's easier for us to engage with them, and kind of successfully engage them in their daily tasks. So what's the connection between dementia and Down syndrome? Many, as you know, there is With people with Down syndrome, they have all humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, and people with Down syndrome on the 21st pair have an extra chromosome. And so, what that extra chromosome does, it produces this beta amyloid protein that is linked to an Alzheimer's disease. And when that is excessively produced, it creates this plaque buildup, and that causes permanent damage to brain cells. And so that is why people with Down syndrome are linked to Alzheimer's, is because it's that same protein. So there's and then also people with Down syndrome, they're more they have that early premature aging just because of that chromosome already, and that is why it's so important to like watch that early onset of Alzheimer's as well. The earliest age can happen at 35, and the rates only get higher from there. So the current estimated rates, this is from the National Down Syndrome Society guidebook, is from what I got this stat from. 30% of individuals with Down syndrome at age 50 are affected, and then at age 60, that number increases to 50%. And then that risk obviously increases with advancing age as well. And then one thing that I learned from one of the trainings was most progression of dementia can last anywhere from 3 to 10 years. And so I just wanted to point that out, because dementia can be something that can come quick, and it can be real fast, or can be long and drawn out as well. So we'll move into the early signs and symptoms. As we go over this, I just want to remind everybody that dementia is more than just memory loss. It's more than like, oh, they misplaced their phone, they misplaced their wallet. That's part of it, but it's more in a different aspect. So the first one, again, these are early signs and symptoms from the guidebook as well. Memory loss that disrupts daily life. And I think disrupts daily life is the important key here. Obviously, we all forget people's names. Oh, who was so-and-so? Who was that? But it's more of like, they're not getting on their daily routine anymore. There's something there that is inhibiting them from doing what they've done every day for the past however many years. The next one is decreased and poor judgment. This could be anywhere from like safety issues. Say it's a high functioning individual that lives alone and they're leaving their door unlocked, or they leave the oven on, or they throw something away that's valuable to them. Kind of stuff like that. They also can be withdrawn from social activities. They have challenges in planning or solving problems. And what I kind of want you to think here is, obviously a person with developmental or intellectual disabilities already kind of has that struggle. But when looking at this kind of specific symptom or sign, it's the way they get there is changing. So say you have an individual that's usually able to recall things. For example, Brody loves music, and he's able to tell me all about 90s rap. And if I ask him to name a couple 90s rappers, and he forget, it would be more of him being like, oh, and coming up with like random names that are incorrect, instead of like just being unable to answer the question because that wasn't in their brain in the first place. And then they have trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships. They obviously have difficult completing familiar tasks at home, work, or leisure. And then confusion is also a big one with time or place. Change in mood or personality. This one's a difficult one just due to adults with Down syndrome, I know, are prone to depression. And so sometimes an adult with Down syndrome can get depressed and show the same exact symptom of dementia. That same exact symptom would also be considered like a indicator of dementia, but it also could be an indicator of depression. And that's something that you also have to look out for as well. And then misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace steps. Again, everyone misplaces things. It's more of just they lose that process of being able to retrack steps and not able to go back to like our problem solve the way they used to. Another thing that I took from the positive approach to care that I thought was interesting was look for attention loss before their attention span shortens before they start losing memory. So if they're just not paying attention to stuff that they usually pay attention to, that could be an indicator. And then another one, self-care skills are damaged early. Again, if it's not obviously something that they need help with, or need reminders for, that's different than just like something that they've always done on their own that just kind of isn't happening anymore. And then they also have experience of reduced speech attempts. This could be just slurring words or being repetitive as well. So as we go through all these symptoms, I just want to remind everybody that everyone can have a bad day. Dementia is more than just a misplace of a personal item or forgetting a situation. There are plenty other conditions out there that can cause forgetfulness or confusion, and that is why there's such a need for a thorough assessment before the diagnosis of dementia in a person with Down syndrome. So examples of conditions that can cause these symptoms that we've talked about are just acute infection, a sudden medical illness, a stroke, an adverse reaction to a medication, or worsening depression or trauma. So now we'll move into assessing somebody and what that kind of looks like. It's so important to have a thorough assessment process because of what we talked about with the symptoms being so similar to so many other things. So the best way to have a thorough assessment is to collect a baseline of ability. So what does that person do back to like, hey Brody, name five rappers from the 90s. And again, you're looking for, if you're looking for the way he does it as well, but also if he's able to get five in a minute, then you write that down, and then a couple months from now, oh, he's still able to get five in a minute and 15. Again, that's not as drastic as he only got three this time and it took him 10 minutes to do, and stuff like that. And this is all the objective memory performance will also be done by the doctors as well. There's plenty of um, tests that they run and stuff, and that's kind of what that looks like. So anybody can kind of do the objective memory part. The subjective memory performance is a narrative description of unique baseline abilities, and it's best given by the people closest to that individual, the people that are with them every day, able to see their routine and how they engage. This can be the caregiver, coworkers, family members, anybody that is just with them so often that they're able to like pick out what is different if something was different. And what I found was a popular screening tool to kind of detect dementia in somebody with an intellectual disability is the NTG early detection screen for dementia. Now, this is not to be used as a diagnosis for dementia, but it does help you get a better understanding of where an individual with Down syndrome is at. I do have this downloaded, and I want to be able to send it out to everybody after the meeting as well. And this is something that you can kind of take with you if you start to see those signs, and it helps any medical professionals get a better understanding of it. And I think that's just so important in its own right, just because the doctor isn't going to be able to just look at them and be like, they have dementia. It's going to be the caregiver's role to kind of see and describe all these things, and then they can do their test and kind of help back them up. But again, I want to help prepare people be able to be an advocate for themselves in obviously a very complicated medical world as well. And then another thing I pulled from the guidebook as well is that what I really loved is just this narrative example as well. That I also downloaded this and we'll send this out as well. But this is also just baseline abilities versus current abilities. So you can have, I liked how they wrote down the like little small questions and in each category here. And then you can obviously go back and kind of check in. And this is something that I think is important, just because this is something my former employer for the non-medical home care company, who is also my aunt, she makes my mom and her brothers and sisters do a baseline ability just for dementia as well. And this is just one of the best ways to kind of combat, all right, is it something else or is it dementia? And then we'll move on in just these preliminary efforts to lower the risk of Alzheimer's. And I kind of pulled this from the guidebook and also past trainings from the Positive Approach to Care. I kind of wanted to compare and contrast. They both mention mental activity, mental stimulation. That is so important for an adult with Down syndrome, again, because just they're prone to so many other things as well, especially depression when they get up in age. Obviously, exercise, diets, increased vitamin E intake, omega-3 intake, keeping iron in limits, and then obviously they both mentioned mental health. This is also something that I kind of want to research more as well, because again, just the rate of depression in adults with Down syndrome kind of spikes when they get up in that age. And then obviously staying socially engaged, and then preventing head trauma. So that was kind of the end of the first part. I just wanted to also, before we start getting into discussion here, just write down the next topic, which is getting the dementia diagnosis. And what this next talk will be more about, it will kind of be more hands-on. I know hands-on, I say hands-on, but we're on Zoom. There'll be more tips and strategies and ways to help engage with somebody with dementia and Down syndrome. And that'll be February 2nd at 6 p.m. and the Zoom link will be sent out again.